sine and cosine rule questions. In today's lesson, we will be looking at some GCSE style questions to do with using the sine and cosine rule. Okay, so I'm going to start by drawing myself a triangle. Okay, so I'm going to say that there is 60 degrees. That's A, that's B, that's C, that there is 17 centimeters, and the bottom there is 19 centimeters. And the question says, work out size of angle ABC. Okay, so there are lots of different rules, isn't there? There's the sine rule for working out the area. There is a sine rule for working out side length. There is a sine rule for working out the angle. There is the cosine rule as well. And you've all got to figure out which one you have to use, which is the most tricky bit because there is so much to choose from. So first of all, we're working at angle ABC. So which one is that one? So angle ABC is this one here. And I'm just going to draw it, and I like to shade it in just to make sure that I know which is the angle I'm going to be working out. So first of all, you have to see, well, which one is it? Now, I always think of it this way. If I can make a cross, then I'm going to be using the sine rule. And by a cross, I mean if you've got the opposite angle on the opposite side. So for example, 60 degrees is opposite to 17, isn't it? I kind of join them together, put a line there together. Then I've got the angle ABC, that's the angle I want. So that's kind of, you can call that X, or you can just shade it in like I've done. Because that's the angle I want, I have the opposite side to it. And you can see that it makes a cross. And because it makes a cross, we can use the sine rule. Now remember, because we are working out angle first, the angle goes at the top. So the formula is sine A over little a equals sine B over little b. Okay, so sine A is your angle that you want, or the other bits, it's up to you. So you can see here A is 60, isn't it? So I'm going to say sine 60. The little a means the side opposite, which is 17. Sine B is what I want over the opposite, which is 19. Now this is just your knowledge now of algebra and working out using your rearranging and working out skills to work out sine B. So I need to get rid of the denominator 19. So I'm going to times by 19. So times 19 times 19. That becomes 19 times sine 60 over 17 equals sine B. Want to get rid of the signs because I just want the angle, or just want B. So I have to inverse. Sine minus 1 on both sides. So I'm going to do 19 times sine 60 on my calculator divided by 17. And then I'm going to do sine minus 1. And if I do that on my calculator now, 19 times sine 60 divided by 17, do the inverse, and I end up with 75.4458886. Obviously, we don't want to be writing that full answer out, so I'm going to say 75.4 degrees to 1 decimal place. And that is the answer. Okay, let's have a look then at another question. Let's have a look. We're just kind of taking it quite slow at the moment, then we'll get to one where it's slightly harder. I've got P there, that's 48 degrees. We've got 22 centimeters here. We're going to have Q here, and we're going to have R here. And we've got 23 centimeters at the bottom. And your question is, work out the length QR. Okay, so working out the length QR, I can't make a cross because I have 48, but I don't have the opposite side, so I can't draw a line. And there are no other angles, and there's not any angle that I can put on there because they don't want an angle, they want a length. So we're going to use a cosine, and the way I see, or the way I remember how to use the cosine rule is when you've got three sides and an angle, and it's the side is here, which is, you can label it whatever you want. I'm just going to label that as A. We want A, we've got the opposite angle to it, and we've got two other sides. We've got 22 and 23. And that is why I'm going to be using the cosine rule. The cosine rule is A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cos A. Obviously, if that's A, it doesn't matter what B and C are. I'm just going to say B is 22 and C is 23. So A is what I want. I'm going to do 22 squared plus 23 squared minus, now all that's kind of one. You can write a bracket in the formula books. It's not a bracket given, but I always like to put a bracket in to make sure that we understand it's all together. Take away 2 times 22 times 23 times cos 48. Okay, because the A is the angle. A squared equals, now all I'm going to do is tap into my calculator. 22 squared is 484. Add 23 squared is 529. Take away, well, I'm going to times 2 times 22 times 23 together to get 1012 cos 48. I can simplify this a little bit more before I can tap this into my calculator. 484 add 529 is 1013, take away 1012 cos 48. And now I can't do anything else with it. So as it is now on my calculator, I'm going to tap that in. Times. So I'm going to do 1013, take away 1012. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in a bracket because it's all one, times cos 48. And I end up with A squared equals 335.8398264. That is A squared. I want what A is. So I'm going to have to square root. And I get 18.32593316. And I end up with 18.4 centimeters. And I'm going to write 1 dp. So the examiner knows that I've rounded to 1 decimal place. Okay. Let's have a look then at something that is slightly more different now. So the first one was a basic sine rule question, just straight away applying sine rule. And the second one was a basic cosine question where you just have to apply the cosine rule. Let's have a look when it gets a little bit more different and see what happens there. Okay, I have got A there, B there. I'm going to say that's a right angle. No, it doesn't look like one, but it's not drawn to scale. 6 centimeters and 9 centimeters. That one's 7 centimeters. And this here is 75 degrees. Okay. And we have to work out perimeter of AB, CD. And let me just double check that I have copied the question out correctly. I have. Okay. So obviously a lot of different questions. So let's have a look at how to work this out. You will find, again, that there are lots of different ways of doing this. Obviously, everybody has a different way of answering these questions. So let's have a look. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split my shape up. Okay. And I'm going to draw this out separately. I'm going to do, if I could draw it out like that. I've got 75 there. I have got 7 centimeters here, 9 centimeters here. there is no set way of knowing what to do. But if you have a look at the sine rule and the cosine rule, you will know that you only use them with triangles. The shape that was given to you was not a triangle, was it? When I've put that line in, that red line in now, then I get two triangles. And that's why I've put that line in there, because I can't use the sine rule or the cosine rule on a shape that's not a triangle. So once we've got the triangle, we can now use the sine rule or the cosine rule. So I have now got my triangle. What can I work out? So first of all, what you need to have a look at is, well, which one do you use? Do you use the sine rule or do you use the cosine rule? Well, I use the cosine rule because if you think back to before, I'm going to work out this side here. I've got the opposite angle to it and I've got two of the sides. So 3 sides I've got, including the one that I want, and I've got an angle. So a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Let's get working then. A squared, it doesn't matter which one's b and c. I'm just going to say b is 7. 7 squared plus 9 squared, take away 2 times 7 times 9 times cos 75. Okay, let's simplify. 7 squared is 35 plus 81. Take away, well, I'm going to do 2 times 7 times 9 and I end up with 126 cos 75. 35 add 81 is 116. I mean, you could just tap it straight into your calculator and it'd work, but sometimes it's nice to see the working out. Now I'm going to tap this all into my calculator. 116 take away 126 times cos 75, and I end up with 83.38880032. I'm just going to double check that. Sometimes it's important to check these. What happens is if you don't check this, yeah, see, when I've done it now, I have got a different answer. 35 at 81 is 116. 2 times 7 times 9 is indeed 126. So let's just double check this. 126 cos 75. And somehow, oh, because 7 squared is not 35, is it? Thinking of 7 times that. So 49 at 81. And I've checked this now. That's 130. Let's double check this. It's always important because there's so much going on here. Yeah, so now I've got 97.38880032. That there is a squared. I want a, so I've got to square root, and I end up with 9.868576408. Now, I'm just going to keep that there now. And we're just going to have a look at something else. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my other triangle out that I've got up here. I know that's a right angle there. That's 6 centimeters. I've just worked out this side here, which is 9.868576408. Well, what can we do now? Well, sometimes you don't have to use the sine rule and the cosine rule together. You might be able to use something else to do with triangles. In this situation, I've got a right angle triangle and I've got 2 sides. And I want to know the bottom side, because once I know the bottom side, which is this side here, I can add everything up to work out the perimeter, which is what I want. So I can use Pythagoras. So I'm going to use a formula c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Obviously, I don't want c squared. I want the bottom one, which is I'm going to label as a. So a squared is going to equal c squared take away b squared. So a squared is going to equal 9.868576408 squared, take away 6 squared. Now I'm going to write the whole number out to avoid any rounding issues. Well, when I square that, I end up back with what I had at the top, which was 97.38880032, take away 36, and double check that I've squared correctly this time. I don't want to make sure I have the same mistake. So 61.38880032. That is a squared. I want a, so I'm going to square root, and I end up with 7.83510053. Now I'm just going to say that the perimeter now is 6 add 7 add 9. So 6 add 7 add 9 add 7.83510053. You could probably round the bottom one now. I'm just going to leave it as it in because it's already in my calculator. Plus 9 plus 7 plus 6. And I end up with 29.83510053. And now I'm going to round 29.8 centimeters is my perimeter. And there you are. We have looked at some sine rule and some cosine rule questions. The last one was a tricky one. It's quite a difficult exam question where you obviously have to, use your knowledge of all the trig functions and see which one you have to apply. That was all for today. Thank you for watching.